The views and opinions expressed on America's Workforce Union podcast and its digital media channels are solely those of the speakers and do not necessarily represent the views and opinions of the producers or sponsors.
Welcome to the America's Workforce Radio Podcast, the flagship production of the American Workers Radio and Podcast Network, where organized labor and its never-ending fight to protect the rights of the American worker come first. Now, presented by LIUNA, Laborers International Union of North America. Here's your host, Ed Flash Ferens.
A blockbuster movie at the box office, but what about the workers screening it? Bus drivers strike in Mississippi, and today on the show, the president of the Ohio Federation of Teachers. Welcome to the Wednesday, July 22nd edition of America's Workforce, where we're available on at least 5 platforms, including YouTube, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, and Pandora. Melissa Cropper will be our featured guest on the show today, longtime supporter of America's Workforce on behalf of the Ohio Federation of Teachers, one of the many proud sponsors of this show we call America's Workforce. The website is oh.aft.org. And Melissa just got back from the AFT, that's the American Federation of Teachers 2026 convention, which was held in Washington, D.C. And right out of the chute, it was announced that AFT membership is at its highest level ever, 1.875 million members. They're doing a great job organizing. And speaking of organizing, a big win at the Columbus Metropolitan Library. Workers won their union vote with 86% of all voters voting for the union. And they won despite a grueling union-busting campaign from management and a 6-month delay between filing for their election and the start of voting. I'll tell you, this is so common, and it's my understanding they're not wasting any time. They want that first contract, and they want it now. Also, elections right around the corner. The OFT voter guide is out. You can find that on the website. Again, that's oh.aft.org. So Melissa Cropper, president of the Ohio Federation of Teachers, our featured guest on the show. Now, brief look into the world of labor. This segment brought to you by Boyd Watterson Asset Management. You can find more at boydwatterson.com. Last Friday, members of the SIFF Cinema Workers Union in Seattle, the SIF Cinema Workers Union, walked off the job ahead of screenings of Christopher Nolan's newest epic, The Odyssey, which made a whole lot of money, over $260 million this past weekend. Well, the walkout, which included at least 13 employees and was scheduled to continue over the weekend, followed a vote on Thursday evening to authorize collective action due to bad faith bargaining on the part of management, including inadequate proposals on wages, health benefits, and staffing. The employees have been working without a contract since April, and the union has filed an unfair labor practice charge with the National Labor Relations Board. In response to the walkout, management did what they do best. They called in non-union staff to cover union employee shifts, though several screenings of other movies were canceled to keep up with the demand of The Odyssey. More than 60 bus drivers and transit workers in Jackson, Mississippi, walked off the job last Monday after contract talks between the Amalgamated Transit Union, that would be Local 1208, and MV Transportation, the Texas-based contractor that operates the city's bus system, broke down. The union has been bargaining since its contract expired in December, seeking competitive wage increases. MV Transportation, meanwhile, has proposed eliminating 2 fixed routes, ending Saturday service, and shifting to a micro-transit model, using smaller vehicles operated by drivers without commercial licenses. Oh, my. To maintain partial service, the city has temporarily waived its requirement that drivers hold Mississippi driver's licenses, while MV Transportation has begun bringing in out-of-state drivers. I can't even believe I'm reading this story. The mayor, John Horan, has urged the parties to pursue federal mediation. By the way, the strike is the second in less than 2 years. Workers also walked out for 14 days in September of 2024 over similar contract disputes. Unbelievable. All right, we're going to take a quick break. Melissa Cropper, president of the Ohio Federation of Teachers, coming up next.
You're listening to America's Workforce with Ed Flash Ferens.
It takes LiUNA to power North America with affordable energy. The men and women of LiUNA, the Laborers International Union of North America, have the skills needed to build and maintain oil, natural gas, nuclear, solar, and wind projects that are shaping America's energy future. From new energy tech to retrofitted facilities, LiUNA members do it all. Find out what it takes to be powered by LiUNA at liuna.org. That's liuna.org.
America's Workforce is brought to you in part by the Communication Workers of America. You can find more at cwa-union.org. This segment of the show is brought to you by the Brotherhood of Maintenance of Way Employees Division of the International Brotherhood of Teamsters. For more information, please visit bmwe.org.
There is unity and strength for workers.
We are the USW.
We are the USW.
The United Steelworkers.
The largest industrial union in North America.
We represent 850,000 members in the U.S., Canada, and the Caribbean.
We work in metals,
rubber,
chemicals,
paper,
oil refining,
atomic energy, and the service sector.
We are steelworkers, standing strong and fighting for what's right.
America's Workforce Radio is sponsored in part by the International Union of Painters and Allied Trades, District Council 6, representing painters, glazers, drywall finishers, and sign and display industry workers. They remind you that belonging to a union is your right as an American.
America's Workforce appreciates our sponsor, the Columbus Central Ohio Building and Construction Trades Council, who represents more than 18,000 workers from 19 affiliated local unions and district councils.
The Iron Workers Great Lakes District Council, consisting of 8 iron worker local unions in West Virginia, Pennsylvania, Ohio, and Michigan. We build the skylines and bridges along the Great Lakes. With more work than ever before, the Great Lakes District Council is actively searching out the next great iron worker, whether it's building the next Intel plant or constructing a bridge to safely connect our great cities along the lake. So join the Iron Workers Great Lakes District Council today. Find out how and learn more about the council by visiting iwdistrictcouncil.com. America's Workforce is brought to you in part by the International Brotherhood of Teamsters, where you can find more at teamster.org. Are you an experienced mechanical insulator looking to take your career to the next level? Insulators Local 50 in Central Ohio has steady work for a number of years. Insulators Local 50 offers a total wage and benefits package that can't be beat. It's not just the competitive wages. Local 50 also provides medical, vision, and dental insurance with no paycheck deductions for you and your family. Don't miss out on the chance to secure your future. Join us at Insulators Local 50. Earn great pay and the best benefits. Visit insulators50.com/AWF50 to fill out the online form, and a Local 50 representative will call to begin the process.
Now, back to America's Workforce. Here's Ed Flash Ferens.
And remember, you can check us out on Facebook or follow us on X, formerly known as Twitter. That would be AWF Union Podcast, AWF Union Podcast. A lot of conventions going on, union conventions, and Melissa Cropper, our featured guest of the show, just got back from one in D.C., and that would be the American Federation of Teachers Convention, of which Melissa is a vice president on their board. We appreciate her role here on America's Workforce and her sponsorship. Melissa, welcome back to the show. Oh, I bet you have a lot to talk about on the show today. I want to get into the organizing win at the Columbus Metropolitan Library, but the convention, I know a lot was covered. And the good news is this, and I'm hearing this a whole lot. Unions are growing in size, and the AFT is among them. Talk to me about that, Melissa. It's all yours.
We're not just among them. I believe we're the fastest growing union in the country. So,
Wow.
Yeah, we are up to 1.875 million members now. So it makes us where we were the largest within the AFL-CIO, but with SEIU coming back into AFL-CIO, they're a little bit larger than AFT. But so AFT has been expanding a lot the past several years. As you know, here in Ohio, we've expanded. We've talked about that a lot, but AFT has also taken in a lot of healthcare. They're the second largest healthcare union in the country. And they also have taken in a lot of growing in the higher ed arena. So just a lot of growth within the AFT world, which makes for a really exciting convention.
I would imagine there was discussion on that at the convention. What did they attribute that to?
Just a lot of proactivity in doing organizing. People in the work world have seen the great work that AFT has done. Of course, our national president, Randy Weingarten, is a very visible leader in the labor world. And I think that helps a lot too, that they see how proactive she is on labor issues, on a lot of issues. And they see AFT out there fighting for working people. And then again, we have an organizing model that works. We're very good at using the organizing model. So I think that attributes to a lot of the growth also.
Yeah, we'll talk about the libraries here in a minute. I understand you were on a panel about the AFT's 5 fight back pillars. Okay, what are those 5 fight back pillars, Melissa?
Sure. Well, just to give a little bit of context to the panel, AFT always invites international guests into the convention also. So we had 85 international guests this year for about 40 different countries. It's quite amazing, really. And they participate in some parts of our convention, but they also have some side events going on too. So it was at one of these that actually the day before convention, I was on a panel about the 5 pillars. And the 5 pillars are really the legislature, the courts, elections, collective bargaining, and then working in conjunction with community. So I spoke a lot about the elections, how important our elections are in the United States this year, particularly in Ohio, but also talked with international guests about how we mobilize members around elections. So it was quite interesting, and it's always interesting to talk with and hear from our international guests, many who are going through the same types of issues in their countries that we're dealing with in ours.
I understand there were a number of resolutions passed. Let's talk about school funding. That's been a hot topic of discussion on this show for years now. And, something's got to be done about it. And because we're seeing this allocation of taxpayers' money going to vouchers, going to private schools. And a lot of the parents that are sending their kids, that have been sending their kids to private schools, are just getting, more money to do that.
We did pass a resolution, which again, nothing earth-shattering or new in the resolution. Is basically, again, just doubling down our commitment to fair school, to funding our schools properly, and to make sure that we're not diverting all the funds to private schools or to privatization. So that certainly was one of the resolutions that was passed. Although we had over 100 resolutions come to convention. So, but the school funding is definitely a priority, and all across the country, we're seeing that our schools are being shortchanged, but particularly in states like Ohio, where so much money is being diverted to vouchers and to privatization. That again, AFT is making this true commitment to making sure that we're fighting for fair funding, and that we're mobilizing our members around fair funding, and that we're holding our elected officials accountable to funding for our schools.
Well, as you mentioned, there were a lot of resolutions that were passed. One of them dealt with child labor. And I know a lot of the states have been lowering the age for children to work. And I know there was a tug of war going on in the state of Ohio. Talk to me about what was discussed at the convention.
Correct. Well, again, this is actually a resolution that the Ohio Federation of Teachers submitted, because at the International Labor Organization Convention, there was a commitment to making sure that child labor laws are upheld and that children are not being forced to work in conditions that are unacceptable. and that countries that violate that are supposed to be sanctioned in some way. But we know that the United States, under the presidency of Donald Trump, has actually allowed for child labor laws to be violated. So this resolution called upon the ILO and called upon the AFL-CIO and Education International to demand that the ILO hold the United States accountable for those violations. So it is things like, as you said, trying to increase the number of hours that children can work. And we had that bill come up in Ohio a couple of times. At one time, it did pass last year, and the governor vetoed it. They actually did just pass another form of that law here in Ohio, but it was much, much milder. It limited the hours, extended hours to weekends only with parent approval, so that's not quite so bad. But we've seen in other parts of the country where children are working in meat packing plants. We're seeing a lot of deaths happening. And the United States has not held these companies accountable to following these child labor laws. We need to hold these companies accountable, and we need to hold our president accountable to enforcing these rules.
Yeah, one of the big problems is the fines, which are just a pittance when it comes to these.
It's worth the risk to the companies to violate the law. Yes,
right.
And like you said, they get caught, they get a slap on the wrist, which is ridiculous.
Well, it sounds like it was a pretty good convention. I want to get back to organizing here and talk to me about this, the win at Columbus Metropolitan Library. I know you and I have had discussions on this. It wasn't easy. Let's talk about that.
It wasn't easy. This is our largest library unit that we picked up so far. It's the sixth library that we had, sixth or seventh. I really lose track of that. A library that we have actually organized. But Columbus Metro has a little over 600 potential members there. And they filed for an election in December with CERB, and they had to wait 6 months for their election, which is absolutely unheard of. We always thought with our other libraries, we waited 3 months, which we thought was way too long. But 6 months is a long time to keep people motivated and ready to vote for something that they have said they wanted. But in middle of June, we had our election. I think we had the election count on like July 7th. And we won with 86% of the vote, overwhelmingly won that union organizing election, which is incredible. It really speaks to, again, the model that we use to organize, but also speaks to how hard the workers there, how committed they were to making this happen, and to continue to talk to their colleagues on a daily basis to make sure they knew to vote yes when the election came. And this was in spite of the administration at the library sending out weekly emails to members that were union busting emails. Our organizing committee was just phenomenal and keeping people motivated and committed to vote. 86% of the vote. This really an astounding number.
Yeah, that's pretty good. It's my understanding they're not wasting any time trying to get that first contract. What do we know about that?
We believe that no first contract should take longer than a year to get. Unfortunately, a lot of times they do because administration drags their heels, but we're demanding that they come to the table ASAP. We would like to see us get a contract there within 6 months. We'll see what happens, but we put a demand to bargain on the table the day of the election results and said we're ready to come to the table any time of day, any day of the week, 7 days a week, whenever they'll make themselves available. We'll be there to negotiate this contract because, again, when you win with an 86% margin, that tells you your workers want something and are demanding something, and you need to get to the table and make it happen.
We had a conversation just yesterday with a member of the Steelworkers Union about the Faster Labor Contracts Act, which did pass the House. I don't know what's going to happen in the Senate, but that's a good example of what we need in this country to get that contract.
Yes, it's crazy. 50% of union elections, about 50% of them never get to that first contract. And it's because administration drags their heels so much and drags it out so long and creates so many barriers that finally it never happens. Now, we've got a 100% track record here of getting a first contract, but as you know, some of them have taken 3 or 4 years for them to get, and that's just ridiculous. When workers have said that they want a contract, they want a union, there's no reason why they should have to wait any longer than 6 months to a year to actually get that contract. So we need laws to make it easier to organize, but we also need laws that make it that demands that people get a contract much faster.
Amen to that. We're speaking with Melissa Cropper, President of the Ohio Federation of Teachers, OHAFT.org, OH.AFT.org is the website you want to go to. All right, couple of months, people are going to be voting. I'm sure you're being inundated with commercials in Central Ohio about the governor's race and the Senate race. It's really an interesting time. A lot of money is being spent on political campaigns, and I understand that the OFT has a voter guide. Is that all ready to go?
It is. If you look on our website, we have our endorsements listed on our website, and we're also working very proactively with our members to make sure they know which candidates support labor and public education and libraries and all the people that we represent, and which ones don't. And of course, in this election, it's pretty clear. Dr. Amy Acton is not shy about, actually very proactive about talking about unions and supporting unions and working with unions. And her opponent has not been shy about saying he wants to eliminate teachers' unions and not a big fan of collective bargaining and wants to privatize education. So it's a real clear choice for our members in that race. But of course, we're also pushing very hard to get Sherrod Brown back into the Senate. As you know, as people listening to this radio show, there was no bigger friend of labor in the Senate than Sherrod Brown.
Yep. Yeah.
And it was a huge loss to the whole country when he didn't win the last election. But I'm confident he's going to get back here this time, and hopefully we win back the majority in the Senate.
I know the AFL-CIO did rankings on Sherrod over the years. I believe he has a 100% pro-worker rating. So that speaks volumes in itself, no doubt about that.
And what we don't want to be lost on our members and on the general public is how important these House races in the state are also. We have a chance to break the supermajority in the House here in Ohio. That's going to be critical when we have a Democratic governor, when Amy Acton wins. To be able to break that supermajority means that she's veto-proof. So it's really important that we get out and work on these House races also and make sure we elect pro-labor, pro-public education people to serve in our House of Representatives too.
Melissa Cropper, President of the Ohio Federation of Teachers. Again, that website is oh.aft.org. Those of you listening, especially in the state of Ohio, go there and check out that OFT voter guide. Also, you can check her out on Facebook, the union, that is, OFT Union. OFT Union. Melissa, great job as usual. Take care. We'll talk to you next month.
Thank you.
And that'll be it for yet another edition of America's Workforce. Coming up tomorrow, the heat and frost insulators. Until then, all of you have a safe and wonderful day.
That concludes another episode of the America's Workforce Radio Podcast. Thanks for listening, and be sure to subscribe so you never miss a show. America's Workforce is a production of Labor Tools and BMA Media Group. Find out more information online at labortools.com.